Bolt your doors, lock your windows. There's something in the fog. White as I here, and I want to talk about The Fog from 1980, directed by John Carpenter. I've already done a commentary for this movie, and I've done a little. One of my favorite scenes is the beginning. It's a great little scene, but I felt like just reviewing this movie not only because today has to be April 21st, the day of The Fog.
100 years ago, on the 21st of April, out in the waters around Spivey Point, a small clipper ship drew toward land. Suddenly, out of the night, the fog rolled in.
One thing I love about this movie is the atmosphere. Just such beautiful shots and such beautiful music. Another great John Carpenter score for The Fog. It just works so well, and it's unlike Halloween where there's so much tension being built up because of Michael popping up in and out doing his crazy shit. The Fog is just so much more like we know what's going to happen. They tell us what's going to happen at midnight. These ghost pirates, or pirate ghosts, whichever you prefer, are coming in and gonna get revenge on the trick that was pulled on that sent them to their watery graves in Antonio Bay. And there's just something that's really simple that works about that. And I'll admit, I don't think it's the scariest Carpenter film. I still think it works really well, and it's a fun ghost story.
But it is told by the fishermen and their fathers and grandfathers that when the fog returns to Antonio Bay, the men at the bottom of the sea, out in the water by Spivey Point, will rise up and search for the campfire that led them to their dark and icy death.
This movie does harken back to like the old school, like the original Haunting is like what I think of right away. You know, it's just something that is, we don't need blood on the screen. We don't need the killer right there all the time. We don't need the villain constantly being reminded. It's just what's going on with these people and this curse that's just, and this inevitable force that's coming that they cannot stop.
KB.
I like what you said, but for your information, you lied. The fog bank has moved due west and probably missed the ship entirely.
Well, my gauges must be wrong. I've got a wind blowing due east. Now, what kind of a fog moves against the wind?
You got me?
I'm not so sure I want you. You're just a voice on the phone.
And you're just a voice on the radio. We'd make a perfect couple. You let me take you to dinner tonight, I'll prove it to you.
Sorry, Dan. My idea of perfection is a voice on the phone.
Okay, Mystery Lady.
Good night.
Good night.
Another thing I love about this movie is, of course, Dean Cundy's photography for this film is just great. He's one of my favorite cinematographers. He's just great. Everything he does is good. I was a big fan of Apollo 13, and when I was a kid, and when I found out he did that, I was like, oh my god, the same guy who did the John Carpenter movies, did Apollo 13. That's great. You know, his list of films is gigantic, and they're all excellent. And, okay, what else? Oh, I like this scene. This is pretty scary. Let's check this out. Good use of a jump scare. Oh, yeah, and look at Malone. He's all drunk. Yeah, that's another thing about this movie. It uses jump scares, but to the effect that I like. I like my jump scares to serve a purpose and not to be just there, constantly. Ah, ooh. And this movie does the jump scares perfectly. It's great. Or we get information from it.
Bennett? Hello?
Yeah, one thing I love about John Carpenter's earlier films is he used a lot of the same actors and they kind of rotated in and out of the films. And this film is his third film, and he's got actors from his first two films. Another thing I love about this movie is the music. Both the score and the actual soundtrack, the jazz hits they use for the radio station, KAB, which I kind of wish was an actual radio station I could tune into at midnight. I have something similar, but it would just be cool to have, all those old jazz tunes playing. And I'm just going to go ahead and say this too. KAB may be like the coolest radio station in cinema history so far.
I'm high tonight in the KAB Lighthouse on Spivey Point. And in case you've forgotten, it's April 21st, and a happy birthday for Antonio Bay. Now there's a celebration planned for tonight. So if you're so excited about it you can't sleep, well, stay up with me, and I'll figure out some way to keep you occupied.
And of course, I mentioned earlier, the score, written by John Carpenter, has risen to definitely probably like my top 5, 3 John Carpenter scores. I just love the music. It just works so well. There's so many other movies that the music's great, of course great, but I just think this one just totally got overlooked. But now is finally getting the recognition that it deserves. It's just a simple story, and that's what's great about these old films like this, is simple stories just work better. You can do more with your actors, with your shots, with everything. You're not trying to cram a bunch of storyline into that camera right there. You can just, they know the story. We can sit back and give them the visuals that we want to give them, and that's one thing I love about this film. And I just need to get back to the actual soundtrack again. A couple of people have put together the whole soundtrack, and there's one that ranges from like an hour long, and there's one that ranges from like 2 hours long. And they're both great videos. I suggest if you dig this movie, dig this soundtrack, dig these songs, go to those videos. Just look up KAB Radio, and you'll get the videos, and they'll have the whole list. You can look up all the artists. I have actually kind of gotten into jazz because of this movie, actually. Like, it's made me a bit more like, oh, whoa, I'm like checking this out. I've liked all genres of music, but jazz is one I was never a big fan of. But now I'm actually turning into quite a big fan of it. And it's all because of KAB. Thank you, Adrian Barbeau. No, I probably should be thanking John Carpenter, because more than likely he's the one who picked those songs.
Ahoy, mateys. This is Stevie Wayne, your nightlight. And KAB, Antonio Bay, California, is on the air. I've lined up some tunes to help you celebrate the 100th birthday of Antonio Bay. So let's get down to business.
So I highly recommend this film. It's pretty much on every streaming service out there. Great ghost story, great cast, fantastic visuals, amazing score and soundtrack. It's from 1980, one of the best years in cinema. White as I, you have a good night.